So this workshop is called Variations on a Theme. I thank you for joining me. And we can go down to the first slide, please. Okay, the first thing is, what is a narrative poem? A narrative poem, according to writers.com, is a form of poetry that is used to tell a story. The poet combines elements of storytelling like plot, setting, and characters with elements of poetry such as form, meter, rhyme, and poetic devices. Narrative poem definition: a form of literature that combines the elements of poetry with the elements of storytelling. So the very first thing we need to look at is, what is a story? What are the elements of the story? And it may sound really, really simple, but I'm sure you've all had experiences where you've heard someone telling you something, or you've read something and you're trying to figure out, well, how does it end? There's no end. Or where am I in the story? Beginning, middle, and end. The essence of a story. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be in that order. Another way of looking at the elements of the story is a beginning. You construct a compelling first sentence or line in your poem, set the mood. If it's a song that you're writing, you want to perhaps have a catchy chorus. The middle, you use highly descriptive but concise sentences to convey important information. Rhymes are useful in songs. Whether song or spoken word, make sure to research the topic. And I think it's really important, regardless of what you are writing, in what form, that you're putting information that makes sense poetically or in literature, but information that can be verified. If you're writing a poem about a specific place and you have the setting in that place not consistent with what is actually in that place, it will be something that detracts from what you've written. And if it's in a performance that you're doing, it will stop people at that point, and they'll be thinking, wait a minute, did I just hear that? So you want to keep that in mind. The other thing about writing and beginning, middle, and end of a story that can be useful anytime is that you need to start somewhere. Sometimes it's not so easy. You don't quite know where to start. You've got a great ending, you've got a great middle, you've got a great beginning. The problem is, just start someplace. You can always revise later if you need to. We're going to, at the end of this workshop, have a little prompt and write things in a different variation, if we have time to do that, and have some folks share what they've written. So I'm going to start with an example of a story. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, you're probably wondering why in the world I have the city seal for Warszawa, Poland, or Warsaw, Poland. And the reason is that the story that I am going to tell is something that takes place in Warsaw before it was Warsaw, and it's based on old myths and legends. It is a story that I wrote first as this story. I did as much research as I could, and I found that there were just minimal snippets of information about what the original story was. So I had to create a lot of this on my own. But I will tell you that in 1390, the coat of arms of the city of Warsaw, as it's known in Polish, Warszawa, held a creature with a tail and scales. It was changed over the years, but the first presentation of a mermaid dates back to 1622. There are spotty legends about the mermaid. My original story is based to a small degree upon those legends, and in the Polish culture, last crumb of bed is utter despair. If I was doing this story in a performance, which I have, it's mentioned I'm a storyteller, I would also include a traditional Polish song with it, but I'm not going to do that today. This is called The Mermaid of Warszawa. It was not an easy life for the fishermen who lived near the Vistula River that runs through what we now know as the great city of Warsaw. But when the waters began to chum white and spin in endless eddies, it made it impossible to launch their boats. It was not always this way, but it had been so for several months. Soon, there would not be enough fish to feed the children or the children of those who bought the fish. Now and again, amid the tumult, they would glimpse a large tail, the likes of which they had never seen. They resolved, in curiosity and need, to capture the beast. A haul of such large size might feed the whole village for a week. To no avail, they watched and listened in an attempt to learn its habits and track it down. One evening, as the sun was setting, young Jacek, who was walking along the bank within a copse of trees, stopped to marvel at the glory of the light that glinted upon the water that was, for a change, moving just the smallest sound of a rippling current. Then he saw her, sitting on a large rock on the opposite bank. She was clothed only in the colors of the setting sun. Her long golden hair caressed the water. Her lower half was adorned with shimmering silver scales. So taken was he with her beauty that he fell deeply and hopelessly in love. He could not let her be caught. His heart skipped when he thought she may have seen him. There was a village meeting the very next day at sunrise to discuss strategies to capture the creature. Many people had much to say, most of them without any real substance. Finally, Jacek summoned the courage to tell them what he had seen. Aha, they all murmured as they nodded their heads. That explains it. Well, they knew that they couldn't kill or confine such a magical creature, but they also knew that they needed to come to an understanding. Because Jacek had made the discovery, it was his task to bargain with her. Late in the day, he made his way to the same spot along the bank and stood in the same group of trees across the river from the same rock. She was not there. His heart sank with the sun. He waited without sleep all that night and into the next night, and on the third night, he was still awake for fear he would miss her. Finally, as the sun slid closer to the horizon and the water turned the color of copper, he seemed to appear out of nowhere sitting on the rock. He stood on the bank waiting for her to notice him. When their eyes met, she began to sing. His need for her grew with every note. He returned her song. The harmonies wrapped around each other in ecstasy. He stepped into the river. She dove from the rock. They swam into each other's arms in a thrilling embrace and were drawn down by the current to become forever entwined. The bargain was made. No longer did the waters of the Vistula churn white, nor did eddies of great consequence form. And in the very moment of their consummation, the small village began to flourish and become the thriving city we know today. And that's the story of the Mermaid of Warsaw. So, what is this? I'm trying to, there we go. Now I can actually see faces. Hi there. So in this, you can see a clear beginning. There's a beginning in many ways. Does anybody have any comments? Were you able to find the beginning, the middle, of the end? Were you able to see elements of setting in that?
Yes, I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I love the way that was told, and I could clearly visualize it. It was beautiful. I loved it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So with this story, and I think about these things because I perform stories, this story takes about 5 minutes. But I thought, what if I make it more concise? What if I do a variation on this theme? And so I chose to do a story, a poetry form that is fairly complex. And there are so many formal poetry forms out there. And if you haven't tried to work with any of them, it's a great intellectual exercise, and it's a great feeling when you're able to contribute and complete one of those. And so I chose to try a rondeau, which I had never tried before. And if we can go to the next slide, please. Can we go to the next slide? So while we're doing that, I'll just talk a little bit about the rondeau form. This will not be the variation that we're doing today. It takes a little time to put this together. How are we doing here? Okay, so I'm just going to read you the form unless we can get it on. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, the structure of a rondeau is fairly complex. And I just want to let you know what the structure is of the poem that I made out of this before I get to it. It's a challenge. Has anyone here ever tried to write a poem in this form? I did it. Hi, Suzanne. Suzanne, it's good to see you. The thing about this is, I knew she would have. The Florida State Poets Association has contests every year, and you don't have to be a member to join them. But if you are a member, it works very nicely because you have a reduced fee for each poem. But one of the poems, and there's like 30 different contests, up to 30 different contests. And one of the poems one year was to write a rondeau. So that's why I chose to use this form, and I found it interesting. So let's go on to the next slide and see if I was able to capture the original story in this variation. Obviously, when I get to the end of it, you'll see that it doesn't end quite the same way. But the category that I got second place for was enchantment. So hence the reason it changes slightly. Clothed only in the colors of the setting sun, reposed on a rock where the river tides run, her eyes held the ocean, how I longed to dive in. Currents pulled at my heart and tingled my skin, where sweet water becomes salt and the waves are undone. Green gossamer locks from fine seaweed was spun, with sea foam soft charms comparing to none. My thoughts churned in eddies, my mind in a spin in the colors of the setting sun. I trembled in longing, her spell had begun. I could scarcely believe that I was the one. I swam to her side with an ear-splitting grin. She folded me close as I paused with chagrin. She drank all my life force, and soon I was done in the colors of the setting sun. So, a variation on the first one, bringing in perhaps other historic accounts of what mermaids, thank you, what mermaids would do and what mermaids were like. Historically and culturally, anywhere there is water, there are legends of mermaids. And interestingly, here in Florida, as sailors got close to Florida, historians have theorized that what they were really seeing, what they thought were mermaids, were really
Was it manatees?
yes, they were actually manatees maybe with a lot of seaweed on their head. And all I have to say to that is you'd have to be at sea a very long time, having swum with manatees, to think that they were a beautiful young mermaid. So this is an example of how I changed this form. Uh, do you think it followed the story well enough? Do you think it worked? What do you think worked well in this, or did not work well? Any
The
thoughts?
repetition, the refrain, it became a song. I was imagining a sailor at sea, definitely one that got cooked, a little too long, waiting on that rock. It enlivened it in such an immediate way. That was so magnificently done. I'm here with my jaw open. Like, how did you magically do that?
Um, I have to say this because I do a lot of writing, and people ask me about how I go about writing things. I have to say that I am lucky, very lucky in most regards, because my brain goes right to my fingers as a touch typist. So as I write, it flows. This is not to say that I don't run into problems occasionally, and especially with a form like this, where it is so exacting, it takes a while sometimes to figure out which word will work there. Um, I work I work a lot in couplets in various forms, and one of the nice thing about couplets, which this has in some regards here, is that they can be interposed anywhere, sometimes in a song or a poem. You can alternate them. So I look a lot at my rhyme scheme from an initial rhyme of couplets because it works really well. It's also, if you are a songwriter, and I always address this aspect of it, if you are a songwriter, couplets are a really nice way to fit into a steady rhythm of a song. Um, and again, it's easier to edit them because you can switch them around if you need to do that. So this one, I will say that probably one of my favorite rhymes in this particular poem is, I swam to her side with an ear-splitting grin. She folded me close as I paused with chagrin. It's not often you get to rhyme that word, so it was kind of a different one that I had there. So I thank you for your comments on this. Again, an example of how a variation can be made on a story. And these are variations that have come from hearing the smallest snippet to begin with of what this story was about. And I do have to tell you that I have played in Poland several times. I do not speak Polish. I sing one song in Polish, but it is my background. So it was interesting for me personally, which is another thing about writing poetry like this, or writing things that take into account a different culture or mythology, that you can find out a little bit about your background too. So that was interesting for me. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we're all going to get a chance today to write our own variation. And I suspect that most everyone here is familiar with the haiku form. Anyone here not familiar with the haiku form? Okay, so with the haiku form, it's normally has to do with nature, if it's a haiku, but when it has to do with human nature and flaws with humor or satire, you can use this 575 syllable structure to write what is called a senru, and that's what we're going to write today. There are some more avant-garde forms of haiku and senru today that don't adhere to a 575 syllable thing, because the original Japanese poetry has a cutting word more so than a 575 syllable. But we're going to try to write this. We're going to spend about 10 minutes and have a prompt here. I hope everybody's into doing some poetry. You don't have to, but you're welcome to. And you're also welcome time permitting, for everyone to share their poetry, the poem that they've written. Now, this, it can be about a mermaid if you want, but what I'm thinking of is that if you have written a story, or if you have written another poem form about some particular thing, then try to put that into a senru form. And at the beginning, before you do your piece, if you could have a 1 or 2 liner of what poem or what piece of work that you've done that you've taken this from, if you're doing that, or you can just choose to write one. There's no strict guidelines here. Are there any questions about that? Okay, so I'm going to start 10 minutes on the clock here. And okay, I don't see any hands going up. I do see that there's one thing in the chat which I have not looked at, so I should look at that. Oh, okay, it's just about the person's camera who wasn't working. Okay, let me go back here. Alrighty, so I invite you to write a senru using some previous piece of writing that you've used, and then to share that. Okay, you may start. 2 minutes left. Okay, time is up. I think that we can probably take the slides down and see each other's faces for this. There we go. Now we can see the whole group. Pretty amazing. So, would anyone like to share their thing that they've written today? I usually wouldn't start this, but I will start it off because we're talking about variations on the theme being the mermaid. So this is the little one that I wrote. Young man waits at dusk, enthralled by the mermaid's song, joined in harmony. It's hard trying to fit that entire story into that small thing. So, who would like to be brave enough and share theirs?
I can share.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's see.
I wrote a novel that I didn't end up publishing for various reasons. Um, but so I wrote this about the novel I wrote.
Excuse me
Uh,
just a second. Can you identify who you are? Because
oh, I'm Yan Sham. Sorry, I'm not like I'm still in my dressing robe, so you can't
oh,
see
no,
me.
no,
I
that's
can.
okay. I don't know everyone's voice.
Oh,
And
yeah, sorry.
that's okay. Introduce yourself ahead of time because see, if we can't see you talking, I'm not sure which of these people it is.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
sorry. So I'm Yan. I'm from Hong Kong. So in the 90s, the Chinese government took over my home uh, from the British government. So I wrote about that in my novel. And this is the Senru. About to lose home, others will take over soon. Sad to immigrate.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Deep, you can feel the deep emotion in that. Another variation on the theme. Okay, next. Who would like to go next?
I
Well,
can try.
Okay. Who's this?
Deborah.
Okay, Deborah, go ahead. There's many people,
So,
so I'm
yes, I understand. Hello. Um, I wrote something called The Trouble with Brothers when I was 13. Um, so I did the best I could only hearing half of the instruction. He wasn't the brightest, yet cleverness carried him. He outwit he outwitted death. If only I could, so I tried to be better. Logical growth pains.
Okay. I think that even though you didn't get the instructions, you did well, and it might be possible to, you know, constrict that a little bit. There were some lines in there that would work perfectly in a senru. So thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Next,
I
I'll
would
share
like,
mine. Go ahead.
go ahead. Who's next? Okay, I have to put my glasses on. The writing is too small. Okay, go
this
ahead.
was this was something I wrote about 2.5 years ago when I was in the hospital for over 6.5 months. I was about 6 months in, and it's a longer thing, so it was actually a challenge for me to put this together, but I enjoyed it. Um, but 3 months stuck in a bed, I can feel the time burn away. Health will gain me time.
Very nice. It's amazing how a couple of you so far have put very heavy life experiences into just basically three lines. That's amazing. Okay, next.
I have one that I'll share. Hi, my name's Kristen Moore. I feel like I kind of cheated because I used a poem that I've written before and it already had I didn't have to change anything. It's the last three lines of the poem, but I'll go ahead and read it anyways. The poem is about complex post-traumatic stress. So keep that in mind. It goes, nothing is happening, and I am already trying to recover.
Okay. Thank you. As I say, it's amazing how poetry can express in a very concise way all of our deepest emotions. Who would like to go next? Anyone?
I can.
Okay, go
Hi,
ahead.
I'm Shell. I have one on the mermaid and a couple about my grandmother.
Okay, let's hear them.
Scaled beauty invites, her smile hiding razor teeth, sailor's undoing. And then for grandma, my grandma saved me from limits others imposed, urged me to create. Write your own story. Don't settle for their version. Let yourself shine bright.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Razor sharp teeth.
Thank you.
Okay, who would like to go next?
I'll go next.
I'll share, but yeah, Suzanne, you were in front of me, so you go first, please.
All right. Thank you, Bonnie. I appreciate it. This is a senru based upon a narrative poem I'm working on that's called When the Caregiver, Not the Patient, Knows It's Time to Go Home. So here is a senru. In hospital room, caregiver nests in slippers. It's time to go home. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne.
And this is Bonnie, and I don't know where I'm going with this. Without exception, mostly can't help being, mainly, sometimes self.
Yes. That leaves room for a lot of contemplation, which is a thought behind a lot of haiku and senru. So, yeah. Anyone else would like to share? Okay, well, we seem to
I
have.
could.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Shulamit. I
Shulamit,
also
go ahead.
I didn't hear the instructions because it took me so long to find you all. But I did write something based on what was on screen.
Okay.
He skipped up the stairs. She followed slowly. He did not reach down a hand.
Ooh. Oh, That says a lot in 3 lines. Thank you. I'm so glad you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? We're just about out of folks. Well, are there any other questions or comments? Did this work for you? Do you think it would be a valuable thing to examine previous work and look at it from a different viewpoint? Okay. I see, thumbs going up. Thank you very much. And I thank you for coming to the workshop today, just in case you would like to see, let's give a hand for everybody who's here who wrote and shared.
Yeah, that was quite incredible to see that evolutionary masterpieces from everyone. I don't know how this escaped me, this form, but it did. And that was a first. And I was happy to see I was in community with firsts of others as well.
That's great. Well, I'm so glad so many of you could come. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to put my email, not my email, my website. My email's on the website, but make sure I spelled it right. Okay. I put that in the chat. I put so if you have any other comments or questions or whatever, you're welcome to go to my website. My email's on there. It's not hard to find. It's chriskastle.com. You just need to remember to spell my name right, which can be a problem because it's Chris with a CH and Kastle with a K. And through that website, you can get to my YouTube channel, which has some straight poetry on it, but music and stories and whatever. And my schedule where I'll be performing. And I'd also like to say that the reason that I'm even involved in all of this is because I'm a member of the North Florida Poetry Hub. And we meet twice a month, and it's a great place to do these types of prompts. How many of you have done a lot of prompts before? Just curious. Okay. I find prompts most instructive. And tend to be a deadline person, so it helps to focus me and do this. Some people feel that it puts them on the spot, but I find personally that it works for me. So I'm happy to have shared a prompt situation with you. Are there any other questions or comments or thoughts?
I was amazed that I was able to sum up my book in like 3 lines. Like I really enjoyed it, and that's Yan. So I thought that started me thinking maybe I could write more about the book in poetry form.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's wonderful to hear.
And
That's the whole purpose behind this workshop. So I'm very glad that it registered with you that way. So
Thank you.
welcome.
it showing me how much I've written poetry-wise, or even just as journal inserts, I can put into music because I'm trying to write music. So it was wonderful to hear your notes on that. I'm definitely going to use that in the future as well. So I loved hearing those sides of it as well, the musical, putting poetry and writing music together.
Okay. Yeah,
Well,
it's just, to me, it's, by the way, if you are someone who is an aspiring songwriter, there is a Zoom songwriter circle that happens the second Thursday of the month. It's through the North Florida Folk Network. That's North Florida Folk Network. There will be one tomorrow night. And if you go online, they'll have a thing there, a little instruction that will say the songwriter circle, and they will let you know what the prompt for the month is. And you are welcome to write something. Some people just write lyrics. Some people, are not necessarily musicians, but share their lyrics. And although it's not primarily for poetry, we do share poetry sometimes, stories sometimes, similar to this type of thing. The prompt in that case is written between the sessions and the months. It's not written you don't write anything during the workshop, but you can share an original song, but it's for original work. So if you're a musician, you're sharing original work. If you have something that's done with the prompt for that month, that's cool. If you have something that you're sharing from before, that's fine too. Sometimes, just like with variations on a theme in poetry, some of the songwriters will say, well, I had this song that was sort of about this, but, with this new prompt, I changed it to be whatever. If you want to attend it the first time and not feel pressured about songwriting, anyone can attend it and just listen. And it's a very supportive atmosphere, just as North Florida Poetry Hub is, for delving into things that you might not necessarily do. So I encourage you, if you're into songwriting, to check that out.
And even if what I have written, it's usually nothing's ever finished. It's usually just a few verses or a chorus. That's okay too, to
Well,
share.
that's okay. And, if you can always, as is the case, I would guess, with most of these types of things, you can say, any suggestions or whatever. We don't do a lot of song building in that workshop, but it can and has been done.
Thank you.
And I hope you think about coming.
I will be. Thank you.
Welcome. I have to find out what the prompt is. I've been busy doing other stuff, so I wasn't there. I was doing a festival, so I didn't hear the prompt. So sometime between now and tomorrow night, I gotta put a song together. But then it's a deadline, and as I said, I like deadlines. So thank you again very much. Is there anything that needs to be said in the closing of the workshop?
Just to thank you, Chris. You are an amazing storyteller and such a pleasure to listen to and to get to know. So we really appreciate you taking the time today to meet with everyone. I'm seeing some comments in the chat area about links, and I will definitely look into that after the Zoom meeting. We'll see what's going on with that. We do have more events, fun events, all of the month of April. So I know you guys probably know exactly where to go, jackspoetryfest.org. And we have all of the links listed on there. I will go and make sure the links are working correctly. So we appreciate you all taking the time today. And thank you so much for sharing.
And thank you. And just to let you know, this is my advertisement. I'm doing another workshop called The Principles of Performance, which is next Wednesday. So thank you all very, very much for coming.
Thank you and have such a wonderful day.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, Ruth.